So I brought Warren back to talk about a whole range of subjects involving Tesla, Tesla stock, Tesla advertising, and the rest. Hope you like it. If you do, hit the like button so I have Warren back on more often, and then subscribe, notify, and both of us do have Patreon channels, and both of us would love to have more support. So let's hear what Warren had to say. Last week, Elon Musk shot the largest missile, the largest rocket ever launched down in Texas, and a YouTube favorite in our community was there to watch it. And so Warren Redlich is back. So give it up by hitting the like sign if you like having Warren on the channel. Warren, how was Texas?
It was really good. I did a road trip. I took my Tesla Plaid Model X, drove from Cape Canaveral out to Austin to stay with a friend for several hours and take a couple of naps. And then somewhere around midnight, I drove down to Starbase so I'd get there in time to see the launch in the morning. I got there plenty of time, hung out with my friend Will. He's CompuLies on Twitter, and he had a spectacular location to watch from in Port Isabel, Texas. And the launch, I think there was a brief hold at 40 seconds, but the launch went off pretty much on time or close to on time. It was really loud, was really powerful. I have watched probably 30 plus launches from about 10 miles away. Somewhere in the ballpark of 30 launches from about 10 miles away. So this one, we were 5 miles away. And I've seen 3 Falcon Heavy launches. Falcon Heavy is possibly the most powerful rocket I've seen. I saw SLS also. Starship is 4 times at least as powerful as Falcon Heavy. And then we were half the distance. So it was roughly 16 times the volume of a Falcon Heavy launch. And Falcon Heavies aren't quiet. So it was pretty impressive. It was fun to watch. You know, it lit up. It didn't take off as quickly as we expected, I think because 3 engines didn't fire at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But it did eventually get off the pad. It did go up. We were watching it. It's going. And then at a certain point for us, it went behind clouds. And we were watching it on phones or laptops or whatever. And we could hear it. Well, we couldn't see it. And honestly, like it didn't blow up on the pad. I knew that was the expectation. If it doesn't blow up on the pad, it was a success. They got through max Q, which is the maximum aerodynamic pressure on the rocket. So that, those are good signs. I think they learned a lot from this launch. I think it failed to separate because it looked to me like on the video, it looked like 2 of the booster engines didn't stop firing. There's a sequence. They get through max Q. They get to a certain point where the stage is supposed to separate. Before they separate, you have main engine cutoff. So the booster stops pushing because the main engine's all cut off. If the booster doesn't stop pushing, then the stages can't separate. And it looked to me like 2 of the booster engines were still firing after main engine cutoff was supposed to happen. So they never were able to separate the stages, and eventually they blew it up. It was pretty cool to see. They were very clearly deliberately venting gases before they blew it up.
Oh.
These rockets are designed to be detonated. Like if something goes wrong, they're designed so that the range officer can blow them up if he thinks they might pose a threat or they're just losing control of them. So they vented a bunch of gases first and then blew it up. So you, in terms of visual, you were also you were 5 miles instead of 10 miles. So was it visually more interesting? Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but normally when I watch launches, we can't see the pad.
Okay.
In Canaveral, you don't, unless you're at Kennedy Space Center, you can't see the pad itself. You can see it after the rocket lifts off. It's 50 feet up or 100 feet up, you can see it. But there we could see the pad. We could actually see it like full clear view of the pad. And we were half the distance. So that was cool. And then, I think just sort of like from a perspective of being a SpaceX fan, being a fan of science fiction and science and exploration and all that, this puts us one step closer to Mars. I don't know. People are saying this is like that critical moment that history is going to look back on. I don't know if this is the moment. I think the landing of the Falcon 9 back on December 21, 2015, I think that was a bigger moment for me
It was thrilling. I mean, it was so thrilling to watch the boosters landing. Yeah.
Well, the Falcon, the one booster on December 21, 2015 is the first time anybody brought back an orbital rocket booster and landed it safely. And I think that was the proof for everything that follows. I think this Starship launch was good. The Falcon Heavy launch, the first Falcon Heavy launch, I think got a lot more attention. Even though I don't think that was that special. I don't think it was as special as the one booster landing, and I don't think it was as special as Starship, but because they put, Roadster in the payload bay, and they went out of their way to make that one something worth watching. I think the next Starship launch has a much better chance of achieving certain goals that people like, actually getting into orbit, maybe landing the booster. My hunch is they're not going to try to catch the booster on the next launch either. There's this point where they try to catch the booster on the chopstick arms of the launch tower. I don't think they're going to do that yet. Will they try to land the Starship, like what's called a soft water landing, where it, propulsively lands, hits the water, and then probably flops over, versus hitting the water at, hundreds of miles an hour and being smashing into pieces. I'm not sure what the plan's going to be for the next launch, but it's going to be exciting to see that. And somewhere in the next year, we're going to see a booster get caught. We're going to see a Starship maybe get caught and stacked again. And these are the steps that need to happen to get us to Mars.
Yeah.
And getting humanity to the moon, getting humanity to Mars, getting not just like one or two people driving around a little buggy, but getting hundreds of tons of payload to the Martian surface and the lunar surface, and getting many people up there and actually doing things and creating a moon base and creating a Mars colony. The next 10, 20 years are going to be really exciting. And this is a good step. There's more to go, but this was a good step.
So your mission in your head that's most important is the Mars mission. You're not as excited about point-to-point transportation or the satellites?
Well, I am excited about those. I'm excited about all of it. I think there was just the All In podcast. They had one of the SpaceX board members and another guy, and they were talking about that they're expecting that SpaceX Starship will replace all trans-Pacific and transatlantic cargo flights.
Yes.
Within 10 years. The cost and speed, it will cost less and go faster to deliver payloads from, let's say, Los Angeles to Shanghai or Shanghai to Los Angeles on Starship than it does on a plane, by a lot. So I'm excited about that. I think the people travel thing, I think there's a lot of potential for this to become really interesting, and I'm excited about that. Starlink is cool. I have a Starlink antenna. I used Starlink briefly. I might start using Starlink again in the future. I think that's a big game changer for the world. But there's like making life better on Earth, which is important.
Yeah.
And then there's like making life multiplanetary, which is sort of like next level.
Yeah.
And, if you grew up watching Star Wars and Star Trek and other science fiction, the prospect of humanity going out into space and traveling the stars, there's something special about that. So that's, and a lunar base, a moon base is a big deal. I think that's a big deal. I think Mars is bigger by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the moon is ultimately habitable long term. I think Mars could be made habitable. And maybe the moon isn't far enough from Earth to be a good backup plan for civilization.
Yeah.
And I think that Mars is further out in the solar system, and it's a good base of operations to maybe expand exploration beyond Mars, especially because of the small gravity well, where the moon doesn't have enough what's called in situ resources. Particularly, it doesn't have an atmosphere to be able to produce propellant on the lunar surface. We should be able to produce propellant on Mars, and that enables you to land a Starship on Mars and then send it up to Jupiter. And eventually, maybe we build Starships on Mars.
So in the green room before we started our show today,
the green room, yes, that's what we're calling it. Okay.
In the green room, you mentioned that this may have been your last big cross-country drive in your Model X Plaid.
Yeah.
So did you have the most recent FSD in the car at that point, or?
I have 11.3.4, not 11.3.6, which
Okay.
I don't think has gone out to significant release yet. I think that FSD beta performed significantly better on this trip than it. Well, first of all, FSD beta on the highway did not exist when I did my other road trips.
Right.
So I do think it drove better in general. I feel like I'm seeing significant progress. There's certain specific problems in the past that have gone away. Lane change behavior has always been annoying, and it's still annoying, but it's less annoying.
Okay.
There was a moment on my drive from Austin to Starbase. I was driving through a small town, and a black dog at night walked out in front of the car. And I don't think FSD beta saw it, and I did. And I jammed on the brakes and did a hard left turn to avoid the dog. And I suppose it's possible that it would have seen it and it would have stopped. But so, I have a feeling that data that was a hard enough deceleration and cornering maneuver that I have a feeling that data got sent like with high attention to the people at Tesla, at the FSD team, to look at. So, it was just black, and there wasn't a lot to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it. I did see it. I don't know why the car didn't see it.
Yeah. So what about
I know it sees dogs.
Yeah. So, one of the goals, of course, is that FSD should be able to drive anywhere, any place on the planet. You were in some pretty remote places. Did you feel that it handled the remote locations and foreign cities, so to speak, well?
Well, I don't think I was in any place that difficult. I've driven previous versions of FSD beta on dirt roads in Florida and New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think I drove it on anything as difficult as that. But Texas roads, one of the things, just a side note, I live in Florida. Our roads are better than almost every other state. We have really nice roads. And you go to Texas and the roads just feel rough. Like you can hear that your tires are noisier, and that probably means you're less efficient. And so, I was driving on somewhat difficult roads, I guess, but the striking thing is I don't have a lot of moments of like it really stunk at this. It's mostly good.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. I intervene. Like, I tend to drive more aggressively than the car wants to drive. And so there are moments where I want to make that light or get past that car and not get stuck boxed in this traffic. And it won't do that. And I take over and accelerate and get out of there. So that's probably not going to change for me, because I just have this bug to drive more aggressively than they're not going to make FSD as aggressive as me. So
I wonder, they should probably take a poll. I wonder how many early adopters who are also super interested in science and tech are also alpha males, which would tend to feed more aggressive drivers.
Well, I would describe Omar as an alpha male, but Omar is very patient with FSD.
Okay.
So I don't think it's that simple. I think Chuck Cook is probably an alpha male, but he's very patient. You can be an alpha male, but you can also be patient.
That's true.
I don't think my aggressive driving makes me an alpha male. It just makes me a jerk driver.
I see. So if you like having Warren Redlich on this channel, please hit the like, please subscribe, please hit notify, so that you can find out. You can look below and see the programs that are going to be coming up sometimes a week in advance. I'm now putting it down there for you to see. So please hit the notify. And then both of us have these Patreon things. If you'd like to support either Warren or myself or both, hit the Patreons. That information is also below. Thank you again, Warren. And to you in the audience, it's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.